I know you were at the Emirates on Tuesday. I feel like we should analyse and move with our analysis of Arsenal. Our analysis of Arsenal in real time. Like, to be fair to Mikel Arteta and to be fair to Arsenal, so the bottlers term, the overly cautious criticism, like, as soon as I saw the team selection on Tuesday night, in particular, obviously, Rice, who's moved to this deeper role, but the selection of Myles Lewis-Skelly, having a tricky second season, 19 years of age, who played so well in midfield against Fulham. And, I had just assumed this would be a tempting selection for Arteta, but ultimately, Champions League semi-final, the pressure. I'm not pitching the 19-year-old kid who doesn't play in midfield very often in there. And Arteta did. And left Zubamendi out, who's, a good technician, but Zubamendi's just another body in there. He's not overly affecting things. It's a kind of cautious player in there alongside Rice, but he left him out, and that allowed for Saka and Eze and Trossard. Trossard's a good worker, but he's obviously a forward-thinking player behind Gyökeres. I think Arteta deserves huge credit for that selection. I mean, the cautious criticism is very valid for chunks of the season, but that was a brave selection.
I mean, this is where it's one of those things where it has the potential to be one of these inspired moments that turns a season. I do think Zubamendi is top class, but he's top class when he is fully fit and sharp, as we saw in the second half of the Euro 2024 final, where he basically performed the Rodri role as well as Rodri and ensured that Spain didn't lose to England when there was an expectation that Rodri going off would cause it all to collapse. But one of the issues for Arsenal is that Zubamendi has basically typified a massive problem in the squad, which is how fatigued they've looked. Not just kind of physically fatigued, but also almost kind of emotionally fatigued by it all. And obviously then, because of how he was signed, what he represents, Arteta's desire for control, as you say, you would have anticipated that Arteta just continues as on. And this is some of the issues sometimes when teams can get into these situations. And it was a problem for Arsenal. It felt they were locked into just the way the season was going.
Yeah. And nobody, to interrupt, myself included, would have criticised Arteta for going, well, Zubamendi, obviously, for a match of this scale over the 19-year-old. You couldn't criticise a manager for making that choice.
Exactly. But I was saying this in the context of title race, because obviously this was preceded by what happened on Saturday, where Lewis-Skelly played in midfield. Arsenal had a new energy again. And they absolutely destroyed Fulham. I know it was only 3-0, but that's because the game was over after 20 minutes, basically. And they had Tuesday on the horizon, so they had to rest players. And it's funny, like, this sometimes happens in title races where you feel like it feels like narratives are locked in, everything's going a certain way. And then basically just suddenly one team just releases, and it's like they got they go up the gears. Funny enough, and I've been thinking about this a lot because there's actually a lot of parallels in terms of where the team is and kind of the emotion around winning the title with City in 2011-12. And City, same in 2011-12. It looked like it was all going one way. It looked like they were finished. Funny enough, it was Arteta that scored a goal for Arsenal to beat them 1-0. It looked like that was it. The United were going to win the title. There was a high-scoring draw against David Moyes' Everton that it was influential in turning things. And City just ultimately, out of nowhere, and they did benefit from the return of Carlos Tevez from exile. Arsenal similarly have benefited a return from Bukayo Saka from injury. Different circumstances, but potentially same effect. City were released then, before, again, to be fair, another massive twist at the end, or massive tree twist at the end. But it does seem like a similar sort of dynamic around Arsenal. It's just been released. And in the same way Zubamendi kind of typified a fatigue, it feels like Myles Lewis-Skelly typifies suddenly this burst of energy. Because, like, obviously, Lewis-Skelly, he had been one of the stories of last season. Every club loves a player coming through, especially if they've been a boyhood fan, as Lewis-Skelly was, because like it just kind of deepens the link, especially with what clubs are now and the ownership and all that sort of thing, and international dimensions. Having a homegrown player deepens that link. And then this season, for various reasons, he just wasn't getting in the team. There's been talk that he would be dispensable, that if they were looking to raise money, they'd sell him. And then suddenly he's back in and on with the most influential player in multiple ways, just when they need him most. And that, to be fair to Arteta, like Arteta spoke about it a little bit after the game on Tuesday. He said how he'd been hard on Myles Lewis-Skelly. I think just from speaking to people who know Lewis-Skelly a bit as well, he's had a few realizations himself this season. But also, let's not forget, he had been considered a full back, and now he's back right in the centre of the team.
Yeah. The celebration police were obviously out in force after the win at the Emirates, and Look, I get maybe the pyrotechnics were a step too far, but you can't really hold the players or the manager accountable for that. But it does feed into what you're talking about, the Myles Lewis-Skelly energy about them all of a sudden again. And they were so authoritative and so good against Fulham. And then Manchester City, on Monday night away to Everton, dropped the 2 points, which sort of punctures that sense that people would have had as Declan Rice is kneeling down saying, it's not done. It punctures the sense that City had just clicked and we're now going to steamroll every team on the way, and could Arsenal match them now? So, well, City are as vulnerable as they've been all season. So it all sort of fed in, I think, as a kind of circular thing. Even the scenes pre-match at the Emirates where the fans are greeting the bus and there's flares and the energy in the stadium. Like Arsenal were in a Champions League semi-final last year. There wasn't the same energy about the thing. And part of that as well is like, I think it's a genuine siege mentality about the place all of a sudden. And it's not a made up siege mentality like so many siege mentalities are, where someone takes a tiny thread and tries to balloon it into something huge just to get that energy. Like, the world has sort of in the last 4 to 5 months turned on Arsenal. Like, they hate the fans, they hate Arteta, they hate the football, and they're roundly kind of disliked. Almost, look, they're a good team, but I just don't like them, has kind of become a common refrain. And it's all of this stuff has kind of come together into what looks like a crescendo. Obviously, PSG are favourites to win the Champions League final. It could all fall flat in its face. But Arsenal aren't limping the way I felt they were just 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing, like, for all the criticism of kind of bottlers and all this sort of thing, and there's been a few moments this season where it could have badly spiraled out of control for Arsenal. Certainly in the way, certainly that you would have anticipated it going out of control if what people say about them were true. And certain criticisms obviously are valid, especially kind of the debate around maybe the style. But to be fair to Arteta and Arsenal, every one of those moments, be it the defeat to Manchester United, the 2-2 draw against Wolves, the defeat to Bournemouth, and what happened next week against Manchester City, every single one of those moments, they've rallied for a really strong response. And that might end up being the story of the season. Look, the one thing I would say now is that, given we're talking about big games, Sunday at West Ham has the potential to be the most decisive game in this campaign. Because I think if Arsenal win, given it's Burnley at home and Palace away 3 days before a European final left, I think it's pretty much the title. But on the other side, there's the other where, like, I mean, if West Ham lose, that pretty much confirms Leeds stay up on the day before the Leeds go to Tottenham. And, like, I mean, you'd have to imagine that's a very different Leeds if they're safe. Suddenly, so like, how do West Ham approach that? Especially given, like, the expectation is that Arsenal would be frustrated by a West Ham that digs in. Obviously, West Ham will play kind of a certain defense, but they probably have to win that game themselves. So, like, that's a huge game in terms of what it means.